I am here at the National Leadership Initiative to End Elder Homelessness in San Francisco, and I'm with Dr. Rebecca Brown, Fellow in Geriatric Medicine at UCSF in San Francisco. So Rebecca, you gave a talk this morning about how homelessness affects people and their health. And first of all, how did you get involved in this kind of work?
So I did my residency in internal medicine at UCSF, and it was literally during my first month of internship. I was at San Francisco General and on the wards, and I cared for two homeless adults who were, I think one was in his 70s, and there was a woman who was in her 80s, and I was really disturbed that these folks who had chronic conditions, problems like geriatric problems, like difficulty walking, difficulty caring for themselves, were living on the street. And so I kind of had that idea in my head, and then the next year I was at a lecture that was given by Margaret Cushell, who's a faculty member at San Francisco General. And she started talking about how the homeless population, the older homeless population, was increasing and was aging even faster than the general population. So I approached her afterwards. I said, I'm really concerned about this. And she said, let's do a project together. And I said, fantastic. And so that's kind of how I got started. It was a clinical hook. And then I was fortunate to run into Margot.
And is this something that the medical community is talking about right now as the population is aging and as we're seeing, at least I know in San Francisco, so many more homeless people on the streets?
I would say that there's certainly an awareness that the general population is aging, but I would say there's, and all the implications that has for providing health care to this population, for increasing costs for this population, but I would say there's probably a lot less awareness that the homeless population is actually aging, and this is really a separate trend, which is something that Tom Byrne talked about this morning at the conference as well. So I'd say I do see some more coverage of it, for example, in the news, but I don't know that there's broad awareness.
Right. What struck me when I did an investigation looking at the older homeless women population in San Francisco is that even if women are homeless for 5 years, it causes so many problems. Can you talk about that? And also the age factor. A lot of women, I guessed, were 75 or 80, and it turns out they were 60.
Right. Yeah, so the issue is really complex. So there's some folks, if we're thinking about the pathways into homelessness, first of all, especially among older adults, say that you're 55 and you're homeless. There's probably two different ways that you got there. So some people may have had a history of lifelong challenges, with substance use, with mental illness, etc. And that group tends to become homeless younger, and they're chronically homeless over many years. And during the course of homelessness, you kind of encounter ongoing challenges that I think may result, and there's research ongoing in this area, in people really looking much older than they actually are, kind of how you're seeing. And then there's a different group of people who may have faced financial challenges during their life, but they don't kind of fall off the cliff or have a crisis that leads to homelessness until later in life. And those people may, look more like someone who, they may not have that same kind of premature aging that we see among someone who's been chronically homeless for many years. But that's certainly something that people understand intuitively, I think. Clinicians who care for homeless individuals, or people who just see homeless people in the street, that they seem to age faster. And why that happens, we can make a lot of guesses about why, but it's not totally understood yet.
Well, and the women that I interviewed said there's just so much stress because you don't know where you're going from the morning to the afternoon to the evening. The shelter might not allow you to bring your 2 bags in, so where are you going to put them?
Right.
You might be afraid that you're going to be robbed.
Right.
Will you be eating tomorrow? I mean, just getting from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock is stressful.
Absolutely.
And then if you have back issues and gout because you sat in a chair all night, I mean, these are the details that you just don't really when you read articles about homelessness.
Yeah. And so I was mentioning to you before that when I was in Boston and I was spending a lot of time in the shelters doing interviews with older homeless folks, it really, as being in there even as a researcher, it really kind of, it weighs you down. Just seeing people going through this constant cycle of uncertainty, as you're talking about, and stress, and it's not an easy environment. It's really people you work with, people who are staffing the shelters are often overburdened, and the environment is terrible.
Totally unpredictable.
Yeah, it's unpredictable.
Yeah.
You have to get in line every night to try to get a bed again in the shelter. You don't know if you're going to get the bed. So, and there's absolutely links that are emerging between chronic stress and developing chronic health conditions. Again, these are early studies, but as you're pointing out, there's almost certainly down the line we're going to see those links become more clear.
Well, and it's amazing when you think that the House is considering a bill to massively cut the food stamp program.
Yeah.
Social Security is, quote, on the table.
Yeah.
They're cutting Meals on Wheels for seniors.
Yeah.
As a society, what can we do? Because it seems overwhelming to a lot of people to change this. Because, 10,000 people turn 65 every day in this country?
And also the sequester specifically, and this is really upsetting for those of us who are concerned about homelessness among older adults, is I hope I'm not misquoting, but I think it's going to cut funding for like 100,000 permanent supportive housing residences, which is really upsetting. So people who are currently housed, who've been homeless for many years and finally get housing, may be at risk for losing that housing if the sequester continues to go into effect. And so, so what can we do?
Yeah.
Well, here we are at the National Leadership Initiative to End Elder Homelessness. So certainly what we can do is we can try to promote some of these initiatives that they've identified, ways to increase affordable housing for older homeless adults, for people who are currently homeless, and for people who are low income and at risk of homelessness. And so the policy end of things is less my expertise, but some of the proposals they've made are, for example, to increase funding for the Section 2 of the 202 HUD 202 program, to increase tax credits for affordable housing, etc. And so these are the kind of policy initiatives that have to take place if we're going to meet this increasing, this wave of homeless people who are continuing to age. Yeah,
it's really about money and policy.
Yes.
Right. And how have you focused on how the Obama administration has done on these issues?
No.
No. Okay. Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, not at all.
No, but I will ask, because someone did say that the senior housing fund has been slashed.
Right.
And that.
Yeah, and there's people here who will be able to talk to you all.
Yeah.
about
Okay.
that. I'm more on the health status type of end of things, but those are the critical issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think this is going to hit us in the face in the coming years?
Well, this morning, in the talk that was just before me, Tom Byrne was talking about demographic trends in the homeless population.
Yeah.
And so there's basically this wave of people who are in the second half of the baby boom generation, and they're at increased risk for homelessness for a whole bunch of reasons. And this group is now aging, and as they age, more of them are becoming homeless. And so in the coming years, he made some projections that, we could see this bulge of like 64 to 75-year-olds who are becoming homeless. So it's really upsetting for those of us who are concerned about these issues, yeah.
Well, and so I'll put links below this video about what you can do about this.
Sure.
And what actions to take.
Yeah.
I'm here with Dr. Rebecca Brown, Fellow in Geriatric Medicine at UCSF in San Francisco, and we're at the National Leadership Initiative to End Elder Homelessness in Los Angeles, and we're just, I think, like a 10-minute drive or 5-minute drive from Skid Row.
Yep.
Right? Which is kind of ironic.
Yeah.
And then a half hour from Malibu, the mansion capital of the world.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well,
These crazy contrasts.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Rebecca.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.